class 3 sexual predator?
Tier 1.
Was tier 1's the highest and worst?
No,
I'm the lowest.
I'm the lowest.
You're the lowest. Okay, tier 1, you're the lowest. But a criminal.
Yes.
Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right.
The Epstein files have just been released by the Justice Department.
There are scandals that shock the public for a moment, and then there are scandals that expose something much deeper, something unsettling about power itself. Jeffrey Epstein was not a movie villain. He did not operate in the shadows alone. He moved in plain sight. He attended elite dinners. He entertained Nobel Prize winners. He posed for photographs with presidents. He flew alongside billionaires. He was welcomed into rooms most people will never see. And yet, behind the polished suits and private jets, there was a criminal operation that would later horrify the world. In 2026, newly released files, millions of pages of emails, internal communications, schedules, redacted names, and investigative records have brought his story roaring back into public discussion. The documents do not merely revisit the past. They reopen wounds. They revive questions. They intensify scrutiny of powerful figures whose names appear throughout the records. Before we go further into this disturbing investigation, take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Now, let us begin at the beginning, so even someone who has never heard the name Jeffrey Epstein can fully understand how this unfolded.
Jeffrey couldn't take a 2-hour flight without having to ejaculate. Like, that's how sick this man was.
Jeffrey Epstein was born in 1953 in Brooklyn, New York. His family was not wealthy. There were no early signs that he would one day become a fixture among global elites. After leaving college without completing a degree, Epstein somehow secured a job teaching at an elite Manhattan private school. Soon after, he transitioned into finance. He presented himself as a financial genius who specialized in managing the fortunes of billionaires. What remains unclear, even today, is exactly how he built his wealth. Unlike traditional financial firms, Epstein operated with remarkable secrecy. There were no transparent public records of large investment funds under his management. Yet by the 1990s, he owned a Manhattan mansion reportedly worth tens of millions of dollars, a Palm Beach estate, a New Mexico ranch, a Paris apartment, and his now infamous private Caribbean island. Money opened doors. Influence followed. Epstein understood something powerful. Proximity to influential people creates credibility. Photographs and flight logs later revealed his associations with some of the most powerful individuals in the world. Former U.S. President Bill Clinton appeared in flight logs and was photographed multiple times with Epstein in the early 2000s. Clinton later stated that he knew nothing of Epstein's crimes and had severed ties long before the 2019 arrest. Donald Trump, before becoming president, was also photographed with Epstein at social events in the 1990s. Trump once told a magazine in 2002, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with." Years later, Trump distanced himself, stating that he had not spoken to Epstein in years and was not a fan. Prince Andrew of the British royal family became one of the most publicly scrutinized figures connected to Epstein. A widely circulated photograph showed him with Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's accusers, alongside Ghislaine Maxwell. Prince Andrew denied wrongdoing, but later settled a civil lawsuit without admitting liability, stepping back from royal duties amid intense public pressure. These associations, whether social, professional, or photographed in passing, fueled public suspicion. The question was never simply, who committed crimes? It became, who knew And what did they ignore? In the mid-2000s, Palm Beach police began investigating reports that underage girls were being recruited to Epstein's mansion under the guise of massages. What investigators uncovered suggested a pattern. Young girls were paid, groomed, and encouraged to recruit others. In 2008, Epstein entered into a controversial plea agreement with federal prosecutors. Instead of facing sweeping federal charges, he pleaded guilty to state-level offenses involving solicitation. He served only 13 months in a county jail, and even during that sentence, he was granted work release privileges that allowed him to leave the facility for extended hours. Many victims were not informed before the deal was finalized. The agreement sparked outrage years later when its details became widely known. Critics argued that the deal reflected extraordinary leniency given the severity of allegations. This moment planted seeds of distrust that would later explode into global fury. In July 2019, Epstein was arrested again, this time on federal charges of sex trafficking of minors. The indictment was extensive and detailed. For the first time, it seemed possible that his full network and operations would be exposed in open court. Then, in August 2019, Epstein was found dead in his jail cell while awaiting trial. Authorities ruled his death a suicide. However, reports of malfunctioning cameras and lapses in monitoring fueled public skepticism. The idea that a man at the center of such a massive scandal could die before trial intensified suspicion across the political spectrum. His death prevented a courtroom examination of his network, but it did not end the story. Epstein did not operate alone. Ghislaine Maxwell, his longtime associate, was arrested in 2020 and later convicted in 2021 for recruiting and grooming minors for Epstein. Her conviction confirmed what many already believed. This was not isolated misconduct. It was organized exploitation. Survivors testified with painful clarity about how they were recruited, manipulated, and silenced. Their voices reshaped public understanding of the case. The focus shifted from sensational headlines to documented patterns of abuse. In 2026, a massive release of investigative materials reignited the story. Millions of pages of documents, emails, schedules, and internal communications were made public under transparency laws. Some of the most discussed materials included Epstein's private emails. One particularly striking email, reportedly written in 2017 and released by House lawmakers, contained this statement from Epstein. "I have met some very bad people. None as bad as Trump. Not one decent cell in his body. So yes, dangerous." This quote, now circulating widely, reflects Epstein's private opinion. It does not prove wrongdoing by the individual mentioned. However, it demonstrates how Epstein spoke about powerful figures within his inner communications. Other emails referenced meetings, financial discussions, and attempts to maintain influence even after his 2008 conviction. The documents show a man deeply embedded in elite circles long after serious allegations were known. Some lawmakers reviewing the files have criticized the extent of redactions, questioning why certain names remain concealed despite promises of transparency. The debate continues. Another layer of complexity remains: Epstein's wealth. How did a man with no clearly documented hedge fund empire accumulate hundreds of millions of dollars? Some billionaires, including Leslie Wexner, had documented financial relationships with Epstein. Wexner later stated that Epstein misappropriated funds and severed ties. Yet questions about how Epstein maintained such an extravagant lifestyle persist. Wealth created insulation. Insulation created access. Access created protection. At least for a time. The disturbing truth behind Jeffrey Epstein is not confined to one man's crimes. It is about a system that allowed proximity to power to act as a shield. He attended conferences with scientists. He donated to universities. He hosted dinners with political leaders. He presented himself as a philanthropist. Meanwhile, victims say exploitation was occurring behind closed doors. This contradiction, public prestige alongside private criminality, is what unsettles so many people. Why did the 2008 plea deal grant such unusual concessions? How did Epstein maintain access to elite circles even after his conviction? What do the redacted portions of the 2026 files contain? Were warning signs ignored because of who he knew? These are not conspiracy theories. They are documented public concerns raised by lawmakers, journalists, and survivors. Even years after his death, Jeffrey Epstein's name resurfaces with each new document release. The 2026 files ensure that his connections remain under examination. Some individuals named in logs or emails deny wrongdoing. Others have faced civil settlements. Some have stepped back from public roles. Many insist they had limited or purely social interactions. But the public conversation continues because trust was shaken. The story revealed how influence can complicate justice. It demonstrated how reputation can delay accountability, and it forced institutions to confront uncomfortable truths about how power operates behind closed doors. When we step back and look at this story through a Christian lens, it becomes more than a political scandal or a legal controversy. It becomes a sobering reminder of what Scripture has warned about for thousands of years. This story reminds us that no one is beyond accountability, no matter how wealthy or powerful. Ecclesiastes chapter 8 verse 11 warns, "When the sentence for a crime is not quickly carried out, people's hearts are filled with schemes to do wrong." Delayed justice allows wrongdoing to grow. Yet truth cannot stay hidden forever. Luke chapter 12 verse 2 says, "There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed." The exposure of these crimes, even if late, shows that darkness eventually comes to light. Ultimately, God sees all, and justice belongs to Him. Hebrews chapter 4 verse 13 declares, "Nothing in all creation is hidden from God's sight, to whom we must give account." This serves as a solemn reminder that every action has consequences, and all will be held accountable.